There we go. What's happening? We got something going on now. What up,
Nice,
Joey?
I'm chilling, bro.
How's it going, dude? Nice Christmas sweater, bro.
Thank you. I wanted to, get in the Christmas mood.
Yeah, me in the fucking Hawaiian shirt.
Nasty style.
the kid. All right, guys. In case you didn't know, I mean everybody knows who you are at this point because you know these FGC circles run small. But this is the
Yes, they
kid,
do.
Joey Fury, CEO of Muck Duck Enterprises. He likes to occasionally run the butcher's shoulder and make you hold that James Brown. And on the off occasion, he'll give you the Congo blast from behind. You know how he rolls.
Oh god.
That man, Joey Fury. What's going on, kid?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
Terror of the online tournaments.
Yeah, I'm chilling, dude. I'm glad it's the weekend. I just finished up all my coaching sessions for today.
Yeah, hell yeah.
The Anakin Invitational's going on tomorrow.
Yeah, we're
You're
excited
gonna be
about
playing
that.
in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm super hyped to tune in for that.
Did you
High
end up,
stakes online.
did you end up nominating Washyung?
Yes, I
That's
did.
tight. That's super sick.
I initially I nominated Fear, and Anakin was like, he's already in it. I was like, oh, okay, no doubt, no doubt. And then he sent me the list of who was already in. I was like, well, I mean, it was me and Wash Young in the last big Anakin tournament, the winner
Yeah.
take all. So it's like, seems like a good idea to me.
Hell yeah, that was a great idea. I'm really curious to see who he's gonna play. But real quick before we move on, Bristle, Lou, Noam, what's going on, everybody? And Joey, if you see anything interesting that happens in the chat or like a fun little quest, feel free to just like grab that shit and run with it.
Yes, sir.
But a little, just to touch base with what's going on, everybody, we're just gonna talk shit. Like, this is this is like interview form, and the focus is gonna be on Uncle Joey over here. But we'll rally back and forth. We'll talk about whatever the fuck. We'll talk about tech and we'll talk about a lot of stuff. I have a bunch of questions laid out for you. We're probably not gonna get to all of them.
Oh, shit, that many. All right.
Yeah. So we'll see where we go. And chat, like if you guys have anything you want to ask, fire off. If I see something interesting or if Joey sees anything interesting, we'll pick it up. Although I do have some chat questions already pre-baked, so we got that on lock. Thank you, Milkman. I appreciate it. Welcome to the chat. All right, Joey, just to kick things off, bro. So your Tekken origin story. I'm sure you've told this story a bunch of times before, but give us the rundown. How'd you start, man?
Yeah, I have gone over my origin story a lot. I started playing Tekken like really young. Not competitively, but maybe even like 7, 8 years old.
Damn. Sick.
With my brother, and that was because my dad and my older brother were both like pretty into video games. When I was like like a toddler, they're playing on like the original Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Watch my brother play Sonic on the Sega Genesis.
Hell yeah, bro.
So they were like super into games, and just like one fateful day, my dad was like checking out at some game store. It wasn't even called GameStop back then. I don't know what it was. But the clerk's just like, hey, you want to buy this demo disc for like $3 extra? And my dad's like, no. But I think my brother was there. He's like, no, get the demo disc. And he's like, all right, I'll get the demo disc. This Jam Pack, you can still find it. People probably remember it. It's a PlayStation 1 demo disc called Jam Pack Volume
Dude,
whatever.
I forgot that existed. Holy shit. Yeah. Go on.
So this was probably like 1999 or something like that. And that demo disc had Tekken 3 on it. And it had 2 playable characters, Eddie Gordo and Ling Xiaoyu. And my brother and I would like play the demo, just smashing both kicks with Eddie, of course. And he was like, this game is sick. Like, I gotta get the real thing. So he got that on the console, and we would just play that with each other. I mean, my brother's like 4 years older than me, so he beat the hell out of me back then. His brain just more developed. But so we'd play Tekken 3, and then we would like go to the mall as kids, and you start like encountering, like you see at the arcade, like, oh, there's Tekken, you know, there's like a Tekken 3 cabinet, or there's a Tag 1 cabinet. And so even then I was like too young, I couldn't even like reach like to play like the stick for the buttons. So I'm just
little Joey.
yeah, I was like, you know, that small, but I would watch my brother play like against people at the mall. We went like on a family vacation, like a cruise ship. And there was like a Tekken 3 cab. Like there's a Tekken 3 cab on the cruise ship, and I remember like watching my brother play that. So that was a lot of my origins, was just like playing at home with my brother and then like watching him play at the arcades. And like, oh, this is cool. Until, you know, we would just do that, like buy the console games, buy Tekken 3, Tag 1, Tekken 4, and I just play with my brother.
Yeah.
Until, you know, Tekken 5, when I was actually I didn't have to get tall enough to reach the sticks. In Tekken 5, they gave you a plug that you could plug in your PlayStation controller on the cabinet. So that was when you know, went to the mall and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play on like the arcade cab for real.
Let's go.
And I was always a Brian player, like all like Tekken 3, 4, 5. And so like with the Tekken 5 arcade cabinet, you had like your IC card that you could customize.
Okay.
And I remember buying one and putting it in like at the arcade, and it's like you got to put in a name for your card. I just like remember this so vividly. I'm at the mall playing Tekken 5 with the controller. I put the card in and I turned back to my brother. I'm like, what do I name it? Like, what do I name the card? And he was just like, how about Joey Fury? Like, that sounds badass.
That's sick, bro.
And I was like, all right, okay, yeah, I'll name it Joey Fury. And like that was it. It was my name forever after that.
That's so fun. That's actually a really tight. I didn't know all of it. Have you always gone that in detail with your origin story? I don't remember some of these details.
No, probably not. Probably not.
That's tight, dude. Hell yeah. Look at your brother.
I had a few other like cards. You know, you'd buy like an IC card for each character back then. So I also played like Law back then. And I remember putting that one in, and I named the card after the Japanese restaurant in the mall food court. So it was Oishi Japan. And that place is still there at the mall. The arcade is gone. It's been gone for like, you know, over a decade, but yeah, that restaurant's still there. So it was just like really good times going to the mall, playing Tekken with my brother. I was a DDR kid too, so I was always playing Dance Dance Revolution at the arcade. But yeah, that was great. And so that's what sort of just propelled me on the whole journey of playing Tekken, was like getting to those arcade days and just meeting all the people in Buffalo who also played Tekken. Yeah, and I've been around a long time, like in the Tekken community from then. This is like 2004. We're talking like when Tekken 5 was coming out in the arcades. So yeah.
So out of all like the attributes that Tekken has as a game, and you know, I'm sure there are many that would fit, or like many things that would fit this category, but like off the top of your head, what are things that like kept you playing? Because you know, there's so many things that can happen in the game, and so many things that you can fucking hate in the game. But there's also a lot of charm to it, right? So like, what about it specifically like brings you back and has brought you back for like what seems like over a decade?
It's like so hard to even narrow that down, because I just love so many things about Tekken. I've just been like crazy about this game for you know, more of my life than I haven't. You know, it's been like in my life since I was a little kid.
Yeah, fire off.
Yeah, it's so many things. Like got a ton of memories just playing this game with friends and family and people that I've gotten really close with. I even have memories of like being at like this babysitter that I went to like after, when I like came home from like elementary school or middle school, and like putting the Tekken 3 disc in, and I remember like figuring out how to do Brian's Fisherman Slam like on the computer.
That's
just like
sick.
boom, boom, and then I'm like, oh, I could do the Mach Punch after. And like discovering how to do that, like as a little kid. I'm like, this looks sick, and like this crazy laugh happens.
Yeah.
Because I remember like the computer did it to me first, and I was like, what the hell is that?
I
Like,
remember this story. I remember this
that's
story.
terrifying. You're just like, and I'm like, I need to learn how to do this. Like that process of discovery when you're young. Like even in Tekken 3, there's lots of moves that aren't in the move list. And the game has this whole like dark, mysterious vibe. So that phase of like, just figuring out how to do the moves, going on the move list, figuring out how to do them, figuring out how to do the ones that aren't there.
Yeah.
So that kept me really engaged. Like the rivalry with my brother, like wanting to beat
I'm
him.
sure, dude. I'm sure.
The music, and then adding in that whole element where, I'm meeting new people, particularly like people who are older than me, and like wanting to prove myself, or like, wanting to like, oh, I gotta like fit in. These guys are cool. They're older than me. There's like that whole dynamic that just like kept me around, like wanting to be competitive with them.
Yeah.
And I sort of like fell off a little bit. I wasn't playing like as much in Tekken 6. I came back to it like really hard in Tag 2 when I finished school. Sort of like right at the end of my senior year, I was like, well, I'm about to finish school. I might have like more time to like play again. Like what if I started like traveling? And then I really got hooked in when I started traveling during Tag 2.
There's a lot to
That
love
just
there.
like that set things off, and because all through that arc all the way up through like the middle of Tag 2, I didn't really travel outside of New York at all. It's like people in the Northeast sort of knew who I was, but it wasn't until Tag 2 where I started like placing higher, and people were like, oh, who is this guy? Who's this guy playing like Jack and Marduk?
So then he comes in there.
And I just got
said, "Look,
addicted
bitch,
to
I'm
like
Rick
chasing
James."
the top 8s and that hype, traveling. So many things have kept me hooked, kept me coming back for more.
So then he comes in there, and I said,
Alright,
"Look,
sorry, bro.
bitch, I'm Rick James."
Just got a fucking gift.
Big gift bomb from Minuteman.
From Minuteman. hey, you were in that gift bomb, dude.
So then
You got shot, dude.
comes in there, and I
Minuteman,
said,
thank
"Look,
you for the
bitch,
sub.
I'm Rick
7
James."
subs, bro. Thank you. I appreciate you breaking up the monotony. I said I'm Rick James. Thanks, guys. Dude, there's this one
He comes in there, and I said, "Look, bitch, I'm Rick James."
alert that I have that I have not gotten a chance to use, even though people have donated to me before. I'll play it.
You got a rare alert?
It's a rare. I mean, it's not rare. It's waiting
Comes
for
in
someone.
there.
It's a rare boy.
Just to donate, but
A new boy and a rare boy.
I'll let it wrong out. Minuteman, thank you again, dude. That's a lot of money, bro. I appreciate you. We're just hanging out. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to shoot it out. And I know it's like a little bit of a weird line we're trying to straddle here because this is like focuses on Joey and not chat for once. So hold that shit, but stick around. So, okay, I can show you that donations out real quick.
They said he never gave you money. You don't know how to
Look at those
appreciate.
stream.
What am I gonna do about my legs?
I don't know if I don't think I can hear it. I gotta play the stream.
This is a test donation for
I'll play it.
$97.
Oh wait, I hear it now.
You got it?
Do it again.
Yeah, I'll do it again.
They said he never gave you money. You don't know how to appreciate. What am I gonna do about my legs?
This is a test donation for
proud about that
$66.
And what upsets me is
This is a test donation.
several people have donated to me before, and they just never popped up. But so I got to figure out what the fuck that's about.
Nice, dude.
Minuteman says, "Shoutouts to Joey's taste in sports games. I need more NFL Street. Nashi carrying the squad.
It's one of the best games ever made, right there.
These D-gens. Wow. So there are a lot of segues here that I'm holding on to. So let me pop back to the first one so I don't forget it. Who was like the first person you ran into that like made you think, wow, this person's hella good, like at Tekken? Anyone off the top of your head, you're like, Jesus, like, okay.
So I think there's levels to that. There's like levels that you encounter as you're coming
Yeah,
up.
hell yeah.
Like you hit like that, that first challenge, that first roadblock. The very first time I think there were a few in Buffalo. The first one I really remember was against my buddy Shin Joker. Yeah,
Ah,
you might see Shin Joker around in a lot of the chats. And he's in Texas now, but he's a Buffalo native.
Ooh, I did not know that.
And Shin Joker's been like a really good friend of mine for many years. I met him when I was, at my first tournament actually.
Wow.
He was, I think, the first person to ever beat me in a tournament. The first tournament I ever entered, I went 0-2, and I lost to Shin Joker and this guy from Ithaca named June.
Okay.
And so yeah, I remember in that tournament getting just bodied by Shin Joker and be like, holy shit, this guy's good. But I feel like I felt that way against both of them. God, I was just like such a scrub, dude. Just doing like strings and like snake edges.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are they blocking my snake edges? Like, what the fuck? What is going on? But yeah, I think Shin Joker was the first one, and then there was this other guy named George. And he used to post on Tekken Zaibatsu under the name Long Dick Dong. And in Tekken 5, he played Baek Do-san and Wang Jin-rei. And he was like the best in Buffalo. Just like untouchable. I remember going to the mall once, like one of the first times I saw the Tekken 5 arcade cab, and he was like running a 50 streak on it.
Holy shit.
And so I jumped on. I'm like, I gotta try to end the streak, and I just got like washed. I was like, holy shit, this guy's good. So yeah, Shin Joker and George, definitely.
Run that Tekken Zaibatsu name by me again.
Long Dick Dong.
Long Dick Dong. That's tight. All right, carry on.
And then as I played like locally more and more, I sort of rose up through the ranks until eventually like I was the guy. Like I was the guy in Buffalo.
Hell yeah.
And it was around that time that my buddy Brian, like goes by Akazukin Cha-Cha, or just Cha-Cha now. He was like, all right, we're going to throw together this tournament at the Buffalo Arcade. And this guy named Spiro Jin and his cousin Rob Jin came into the Tekken Zaibatsu thread. They're like, yo, we're coming. Coming to take your money. And Brian was like, you know what? I'm going to throw in an extra $500
What?
if you guys win this shit.
Specifically if they win.
Yeah, it was like a pot bonus to like entice them to come. Like, you're not taking our money. And Spiro and Rob drove up from Long Island. This was 18-year-old Spiro Jin.
Damn.
And 15-year-old Rob Jin, his cousin. And I guess they weren't supposed to go. They like snuck out the house, drove all the way up to Buffalo. Spiro Jin's just like lead foot all the way, going like 100 something. Gets pulled over by a state trooper and gets ticketed. So like now he's like, I'm in the red. I need to win this tournament. And I played Spiro in the winners finals and grand finals, and that was like a huge eye-opening moment, dude. Like every whiff, just like fucking death fist through the chest, and I was just getting like messed up. You could just like feel this power level from this guy that I'd like never experienced before. And yeah, I was like 13 or 14. I was like intimidated. I was like scared.
Damn. And
I remember telling Spiro that, and he was just like laughing. He's like, "No way, you're like young Joey." So scared.
And at this time, you were the guy to beat in Buffalo.
Yeah, because like I made it to grand finals of this tournament. You know, it was me and Spiro, and I just got washed. You know, he made the money easy and peaced out. And like, all right, GG's Buffalo. And that was my first time meeting Spiro. And that was a huge one. I'm like, wow, I've got a lot to learn. Like, there's levels to this.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, there are probably guys who can beat him. But eventually, you know, Spiro would go on to be like a top player in the U.S. in Tekken 5 DR. You know, like a top 2, top 3 player in the country. So, yeah, he was nasty at that game. And I would see him at several other Tekken 5 DR tournaments, and he was always like the guy to beat, like super scary. Yeah. So yeah, those early encounters with Spiro were really inspiring. and it kind of came full circle because he really inspired me a lot in Tag 2 to take the game seriously. Because that's what, like, when I met up with him again in Tag 2, he's like, I'm gonna try to like travel to everything, win everything in Tekken 7.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm like on the warpath basically. And he was like, you could do that, dude, if you wanted to. He's like, you're hella good. I was like, really?
Yeah.
And then that was like,
I see. So was Spear one of the first people who saw you in that kind of way, like, and told you, yeah, I think you can do this?
he was the first person to, I guess, just really like articulate and vocalize to me like,
Yeah.
this is the level of dedication and like commitment you need. And like, if you can't like lock that in and be like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna be great, I'm gonna build these skills, practice like crazy, like travel to everything, like if you don't lock in and commit to it, dude, he's like, it won't happen. He's like, you gotta want it. So like, if you want it, you could do it, you know. He's like, you're that good.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I ever would have like flipped that switch if it weren't for him like saying that. I always would have just been like, oh, I'll go to tournaments when they're close by and I'll practice for them like the week before.
Yeah.
But when he was just talking about like, this is the way I used to train in DR and this is like the way I'm gonna train now, I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, I didn't know you could train like that for Tekken. So that's where just like a lot of my perspective on like training and pursuing the game came from.
Hell yeah, that's really dope. I didn't know Spiro had that kind of story with you, and like that's the way that you guys clash. That's epic, bro. And that's like one of those like anime-esque kind of things where you just like chance encounter, also like rival, but also
It really was.
help you out, like and although not like sparked by somebody else. Literally earlier this week, some of the people who were in the Yoshi Court might have seen it. But you know, the Anakin Invitational, like $10,000 on the line, collectively at least, and like some potential other like small pop bonuses that Anakin like teased about. But like I'm taking notes, prepping the best way that I can, you know, with a week's notice. And I'm sitting there like looking at this like list of like 15 killers, all with like 2 to 3 other characters, like all with their own unique style and things like, you know, all that shit. And I'm sitting there like taking notes and thinking about the things I would need to feel comfortable and like to feel prepared. And like the very strong, not just like realization, but feeling that like, yeah, this is gonna take a lot. Like I can't do this in a week, and like, I definitely can't do it alone. So like I've reached out to a multitude of people to like, hey, like, can you help me? Like, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Right.
But yeah, in regards to like that flip of that switch of like, oh, I see.
This is like a commitment.
Yeah. Because oh man, and like not even just aside from obviously putting in the time, but like just organizing things.
Yeah.
Like the info that you need, the ideas that you want to go with, and all that kind of shit. It's a lot.
It doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, there's just these natural talents and then they get super good. I mean, that talent is a factor, but these people who get to the top are just grinding like insane. Mm-hmm. And you have to, on some level, be like, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with like putting all that time and effort into this. Like, it's worth it.
Let's see. And if there's ever anything like, you know, that we're talking about, you want to double back to, fire off. I'm bouncing around. What's up, JJ Breeze?
JJ Breeze. What's up, bro?
CF. And Minuteman, thank you again. That was really nice of you. I actually wanted to double back to something that Minuteman mentioned, but I also already had a question prepped for, which is there much of a way of like a connection or a theme between the games that you like? So obviously you play Tekken, but as far as I know, you don't play other fighting games. You play Gods Unchained right now. you play NFL Street, Kingdom Hearts, fucking Hot Shots Golf, and all these games feel very like widespread. You know what I mean? So my question to you is like, when it comes to the video games that you enjoy, is there anything specific that like you can, you know, it doesn't have to be pinpoint, but like something that a game has to have in order for you to like it?
I think The one thing I would say that is common to all of these, I mean, maybe it could be argued that it doesn't so much apply to Tekken, but I really look for in games this idea that there's like simple mechanics that like precipitate tons of depth. Like just like depth and like layer of complexity, like sort of beneath the simple mechanics that are laid down.
Yeah.
Now some people might say like, okay, well Tekken is really complex. Like there's a shit ton going on with Tekken, and I think that is the case. But I think from spending so much time with it growing up, ultimately like my experience with Tekken is the one I described, where like I see simple foundation, like simplicity to this, like, okay, maneuver the characters around the screen, apply mix-ups, and as I'm applying the mix-ups, you know, try to hit them when they're trying to hit me, you know.
Yeah.
And then from that, like, just sort of simple idea, there's all these layers of complexity that, like, emerge around it.
Yeah.
And I do feel that, like, from these other games that I'm drawn to, like, with Hot Shots, it is really simple, you know, you just aim, set the power, set the accuracy, hit it. But then it's like, okay, well, I got to worry about the winds. I got to worry about the slope. You know, what club am I using? Like, there's all these like little extra things to consider, but like the simple mechanics are there. I feel that's like the type of game that I'm just drawn to. Like, you can pick it up quick, but then there's like infinite possibilities once you understand the basic mechanics.
One thing, if I may, like, be so brash as to put words in your mouth, I definitely feel like you look for games that have charm. Like there are a lot of the games that you pick. Like I won't like immediately, you know, when I played NFL Street before, but I never put like time into it.
Yeah.
But as I watched your streams as you were playing the game, I'm like, wow, this game's actually like really, really charming.
It is.
I'm coming,
really
here I come. Like small shit like that, or naming your raft swinging. Shit like that, like, you know. But so, go ahead. You have something?
Well, yeah, I think that is a good observation. I never really thought of that, but I do like games. Yeah, I think like the charm is a good way of putting it. It's games that they allow you to kind of like express some of your personality, or like it reflects some of your personality back at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like a big part of this is like, I like that because it allows you to connect more like person to person, like with the community you're involved with, or like who you're playing with. You know, I think like the biggest way this manifests in Tekken, aside from like, you know, seeing an animation that you think is super cool and just be like, yo, look at that looks sick, but like the move names, like the way you can like develop this sort of culture, like, oh, this move is expressing this feeling,
Yeah.
or this move is expressing like this idea or this thought from someone, and then you like you look at the original name, or you maybe like make a modified one, and there's like this whole sub language that's like emerging around the game, like when you're communicating with people, like you know, you just like hit them with the fucking python, you know, like
Blind running.
that's definitely like a big part of the charm element, like in
Yeah.
Tekken, and you know, I think Hot Shots has that. I think a lot of the games I play have that.
Yeah.
Definitely NFL Street as well.
So there are two things here that I want to bounce off of. You can pick whichever you'd like first, and we'll follow up on the next one. But so one is something that Foxhound and I were talking about in the Discord before. We played some games, and like I gave him one of those like Tekken koans kind of thing, where like what do I need to do? It's like, you need to look at the screen is what you need to do, or like play fast, or like sharpen up, like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So to you, what is that? Like what are these people who are experienced in Tekken referring to when they speak about the game in such a simple way that it bypasses things like, well, when you're in this frame trap, you gotta do this inside set left block to options, and like yada yada. So what is that kind of like? What are we pointing towards when we say that kind of stuff?
People have like lots of intuitive subconscious understanding of situations in the game that it's so like deeply ingrained that they can't even like actually get down to that level, that like deep layer of their understanding to like talk about it like verbally.
Yeah.
They have to like express these things as kind of like a feeling or like something general. But what that general phrase can sometimes do is like modify the behaviors that are happening down at that like subconscious level. So if it's just like, yo, just slow down. Just slow down, dude. Like, what is that like accomplishing? Well, maybe it's gonna stop you from getting counter hit so much. Maybe like there's all of these timings that you keep playing into, and just getting like counter hit blasted. And if you just tell someone like, yo, just slow down, maybe that will like set their timing back a little bit, so they're not so like actively engaged responding to everything. It's hard to like get down to the specifics. It's like, yo, dude, at the ends of rounds, when I put you at like slight negative, like you're freaking out, like you're always swinging in that situation. Like you can draw their attention to that, but sometimes that situation happens and they can't process it as like an individual situation.
Yeah.
Whereas if you like sort of get someone's collective behavior and try to like modify that a little bit with something like, yo, speed up or slow down or something like look at the screen, dude, because that's another one. Sometimes people are like, they're all totally involved in here, like, okay, what should I do next, what's a good move to throw right here, what mix-up should I be emphasizing, and meanwhile their opponent's like doing this sequence, they're coming at them and they're like, none of that is getting processed because they're like all up in their own head. I think sometimes you actually have to tell people like, yo, think more, actually get more up in your own head, because you're not like thinking about what you're doing at all. Yeah. It all depends. Tekken is it's so deep in this way. That's why in coaching sessions I'm always like, we have to figure out how to be more flexible.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to play fast, how to play slow. You have to figure out how to be like super lasered in on what the opponent's doing, and sometimes you have to be lasered in on what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think that's what that's getting at, those like just general phrases. You're trying to like modify kind of more overarching behaviors.
And I think what people kind of take for granted is like how information rich things like emotions or like base concepts are. Because like if you're anxious for some reason, right? Like, or nervous. Like, that's not just some sort of vague idea. It's like your body communicating a multitude of things to you, whether it's like temperature in the room, like your current state, like all this kind of shit. And there's a lot there to unpack. So when people tell you things like, slow down, like, yes, we can sit here and tell you like exactly what you said, like at the end of rounds when I put you in this, like at a disadvantage, like you freak out and you mash or you do anything but block, we can just tell you to slow down.
Right.
And there are some concepts I think that putting more words to actually detracts from like what we're actually pointing towards. You know what I mean? That being the case, what was that other thing? When it comes to your Tekken coaching, right? How and this is something that you've kind of verbalized a little bit after your last Bud Light run. But how have you been finding balancing coaching and training yourself in Tekken?
It's interesting because I think the coaching actually, like, it can be really beneficial to me. Just opens up my mind's like more about what's happening in Tekken, and I get so much exposure, like seeing how people are losing, how people are winning, and getting to think about it. Really, the only detriment is like just the time factor of like spending a lot of time thinking about other people's behavior in Tekken and their game and how they can change and improve, and maybe taking less time just being in the lab and figuring out situations for myself, like with my own characters. So the coaching ultimately, like, it benefits me in a lot of ways. It's really just like the time factor of like how much time am I still putting into my own training,
Yeah.
because it's not the same. Coaching someone else, that's not not training
it's
me.
not putting the reps in, yeah.
There are some benefits, like where I'm expanding my perspective, but it's certainly not like a substitute or an equivalent or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, time management is it's involved in everything you do.
So have there been any specific instances during your coaching that have been like especially fulfilling? Like any really cool moments that you've had with students or anything like that?
Yeah, in general, there's fulfilling moments all the time with it. Especially seeing, well, I mean, obviously just seeing people improve, over whether it's short term or long term. I think it's really cool to be able to do sort of that thing we're talking about, where somebody's just getting blown up in a situation over and over again, and to just be able to take some approach, whether it's calling their attention to that specific situation, in detail, like, okay, this particular one, but then immediately being like, but hey, there are other situations that resemble that one where that behavior might be carrying over. And I think that gets at a lot of what my approach is, where I try to do that like overarching advice that you're talking about, like, okay, dude, you're playing too fast, you're mashing too much, or you're not paying attention to these sequences that they're doing. I try to give those, but then be the type of person that can actually go the level deeper and be like, and hey, if you do that, here are all the situations that are going to be affected by you slowing down or speeding up or whatever.
Grounding them a bit.
So trying to have like this two prongs, like, I'll give you the general idea and I'll try to connect to you like how it's going to have an impact, so that they can absorb that much deeper. And if I manage to do that and then it works, that's like super, super fulfilling. A lot of what I do in sessions, it might end up just being like, I see someone get blown up in ranked, and then we go to practice mode, and I'm like, all right, dude, here's how you punish this. Here's how you punish this. Like, you got to stop this. There's a lot of that type of thing that has to happen. Not all of that information is actually that accessible, surprisingly. Like, teaching someone how to like option select like Chloe's Cali roll with like sidestep right or something like that.
Yeah.
Some people might know about that, some people might not. Others, like, it may be very character specific what they have to do to make that happen. So like just getting in the lab with someone and showing them that can be really valuable. It's not like there's a video on YouTube that shows like every Cali roll punish with every character, So I do end up taking a decent amount of time like teaching people how to lab.
I was gonna say, like, there's no video out there that's like how to lab and how to defensively like sharpen up. Yeah.
And I think that's a really valuable skill that's super overlooked. In some instances, I'm like teaching people how to record the options. Ooh, and I'm like, all right, you need to record the sequence, like with Hwaring or something. And then it's like, I don't know Hwaring. I don't know like what these stances are. I don't know what these transitions are. So I'm like typing out these inputs, and then there's an execution barrier for that.
Yeah.
Where they're like trying to do this like Hwaring stuff. And I think those types of skills are really overlooked.
Yeah.
Where like you need the ability to go into practice mode, take over the training dummy, no matter what character it is, and have some level of facility, like, I can record the sequence. I know what those inputs are. And not only do I know them, but I can execute them comfortably.
Yeah.
You have to be so comprehensive with Tekken. You can't just be, like, all in your own world with just your character.
Yeah.
Learning matchups isn't just about, like, okay, I can identify that move and punish it. Like, you should know what that notation is. You should know how to record it. Like, all of those things matter a lot. So I've been reinforcing a lot of that in my sessions. Learning Tekken's a lot of work, but these are the habits that like I believe in that are effective.
So there is definitely a type of fluency when it comes to Tekken.
Like a language.
Yeah, and I have a language question for you as well. But and I definitely liken a lot of skills actually to things like languages, because not only do you need to know words, but like you need to know how like sentence structures go and like how things work in a context, and like cultural influences per se, like regarding Korean play styles and American play styles and online play styles and all like even like ATL, like we break throws, like
yeah.
Jay, you don't break throws. But my question for you is, and this is kind of more towards the intermediate players who are like looking for the next level, or maybe it's more for like people who are already kind of advanced. I'm not quite sure where this will land, depending on where people are at in their journeys. But so there's the fluency of reading inputs, you know, knowing how to write things out, type things out, all that kind of stuff, knowing what we like contract stance names into, yada yada yada. And then there's like feelings and vibes / like moods within the context of a game, right? So we're playing a game and someone is, say I'm playing against a Brian player and like they're jabbing constantly into neutral and like they're using 3+4, or they're using like keep out lows or orbital, right? And like translating that into a motive, right? So for you, when it comes to reading somebody, not just like in terms of their flowcharts or like their habits, but like the type of mood they're in, like, oh, he wants to end the round, or oh, he's panicking, or, you know, that kind of stuff. Is there anything that you can put a finger on that helps with that, or like a way that you think about going through that? Because, you know, when you do it, it's very intuitive versus like if you were to tell somebody or like try to help someone along that path.
I think this is like it's like a structure that you build up from having a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And at a certain level, it's going to involve making assumptions. Mm-hmm. So somebody may like, you know, get a knockdown and then leave you a little bit of life, and then they just come charging across the screen, run up low right away, right? And that's a behavior that if I see that, I'm probably going to make some kind of assessment like, you know, that's very urgent. I may make an assumption that they're in like an anxious mental state. We might say like, oh shit, that was like kind of desperate, you know. They just like ran up, like did that immediately. That involves me like making an assumption that trying to end a round offensively and aggressively indicates more anxiety than someone who tries to end a round on defense, right? And just chooses to hang back and play keep out. Now, that may not necessarily be the case. Somebody may be extremely composed and collected, deliberate and intentional in that decision to run up and do that right away.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not necessarily the case that being super aggressive and offensive like that indicates anxiety, but more generally, I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
Now, somebody could play super defensive, keep out, slow paced, and their heart could be going a million miles an hour while they're doing it. Maybe they're actually doing that because they're like frozen. They're like, oh shit, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But again, I think in general, if somebody is willing to like hang in that tight situation, that's uncomfortable, if they're willing to just, you know, hang in the heat and be like, all right, I'm here, I'm going to win on defense, that to me usually indicates more of like a stoic, composed mindset. So it comes down to like looking at the behaviors and then categorizing them as best as you can.
Yeah.
Like I've mentioned, I mean, it's going to be imperfect because it involves a certain amount of assumption.
Yeah, some guesswork there.
You can't say for sure like what's going on in that person's head. But you know, some things are generally going to point to certain emotions, I think.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I'm looking at. If I see, frantic, like lots of buttons, lots of dashing up, immediate timings, towards the end of rounds, I'm probably going to take that as like, yo, they're freaking out. They're not comfortable right now.
Yeah.
Whereas, if they just keep dash blocking, if they keep dash blocking at the end of the rounds, that indicates a lot of like confidence and comfortability. So I might have to take that into account.
Yeah. I always find it fascinating how like these, just basically moves in a video game, according to like their usages, like and the scenario that they're used in, can somehow translate into messages.
Yep.
That's always been really, really fun, and it's always been a very like gray area, as you said, because like there's definitely some guesswork involved. But I do find like a lot of people who ask me questions about Tekken like struggle to make that sort of like language leap of like, oh, like this set of actions gives across this sort of message, and I can use that information in my gameplay.
I think understanding this like analogy to language, or in some sense I don't even want to call it an analogy, because
So then
it
comes in there
on some level, like it literally is a language. I mean, it's a process of communication. It may not function, the way spoken language does, with like all of this insane utility and like ability to, express emotions to each other and ideas. But it's a virtual environment. You're putting data into it, and it's coming from a human mind.
Yeah.
It's expressing information. It's on some level, this is a language. It's not a spoken one, but it's not really a written one either. It's almost like a visual, closer to like a pictographic language, I guess.
That actually reminds me of something. I read a book. It might have been Mastery by Robert Greene, and he mentions about like how there's this one specific language that was extremely difficult to learn, to the point where like other people who were studying it, like no one had ever cracked this, and it took the person who ended up learning, like figuring it out, like to live in their culture, to experience their culture, to like wrap his brain around like how they're actually communicating their information.
Right.
And that's like, to me, that sounds very Tekken-like. Cause I've had like, cause I have these fucking sticky notes all over the place. I don't know if you guys can see this. It'll focus.
It's coming out mad blurry.
Yeah. Come on.
Try down 4-3.
Yeah, like, it might be backwards for some people too, but yeah, like try down 4-3, like all this kind of shit. 1-2, less obvious, still exploitable, like clutch defenses, shit like that. And I've had like girls over, like look at this, like these sticky notes, like what the fuck is this? And that's not even, and that's just notation, not even like getting to the point of like, oh yeah, that this person, like they get mad stiff on defense, like that kind of shit. Like,
what are you talking about?
Oh, that's how you play.
Okay.
But anyway, real quick, Don, thank you for the gift subs. I appreciate it. Damn, Josh got shot. Nice. KIS. Nice. Why does this man have maths on his sticky notes? Shut up, Bristol. Cool. Okay, so let's take a break from the tech and shit real quick, unless you wanted to bounce back.
Actually, let's just take like 60 seconds. I gotta run to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, man. Do you think?
All right,
I'll address the chat in the meantime, bro.
Okay, yeah.
I'll catch you in a bit. 3 + 4 up. This dude learning 3rd grade algebra. Holy shit. Let's see. Hope you guys are doing all right. Wow, lots of generous shit going on right now. Minute, thank you again for the big ass gift, bro. That's really nice of you. 7 gifted too. And Don, thank you for the sub. Thank you for hitting me back, bro. I appreciate it. I mean, I didn't do it for a favor. I just did it because I wanted to do it. But still, I appreciate it. I am late to the stream. What I missed, everything. We're about an hour in, and we've been talking about lots of stuff. For anyone who's just tuning in, we've gone over Joey's origin story, and thankfully, and something that I appreciate in a little bit more detail than he's gone over before with other people. maybe thanks to the format of the show, but we've gone over some ideas about Tekken, about like how it's either analogous or analogous to language, or just straight up a language. That's how we both see it anyway. We've gone over his taste in video games. We've talked about Spirogin and how they've met, and Joey's sort of like come up within the Buffalo scene, and there's a fun story there too between Joey and Spirogin. That I like that one a lot. So definitely go check it out. I'm about to go get paid. We'll disappear in the next 10 minutes. No worries, man. Yo, Rian, thank you again for that NSS list, by the way. I ended up checking through it, and like I made some corrections to it, but it was helpful, like having it already kind of shuffled out for me to an extent. Yeah, we talked about coaching and his thoughts on it. We've talked about how he balances coaching and his current training, like training others versus training himself. Lots of shit. So we're just shooting off right now. And yeah, Rian, feel free to dip out whenever you want to. And Alpha, welcome, bro. If you guys have any questions, let me know and just post it up. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah, I was gonna mention, I guess, one more point on that, like.
Yeah, shoot it.
Because I love this like language comparison so much.
Dude, it's yeah, go.
I use that analogy a lot, like in sessions. And like tying back to that idea where it's like, okay, I've got someone in practice mode, and it's like, all right, record this sequence from Yoshimitsu. And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what the sequence is. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
A lot of what this is doing is building up the understanding of like context and situations.
Mm-hmm.
So like the comparison I would make, like with languages, when you're building up that fluency or you're learning, someone comes up to you and they're like, hey, how are you? And you don't know the language, you're going to be like, okay, how are you? How do I respond to that?
Yeah.
How do I respond to that? Like, what should I say? Like, I guess I could say, like, I'm good, and how are you? You can say, I'm fine. Like, there's all these ways to respond to it. But if you're fluent in a language, that does not reach, like, a conscious level of thought. Someone says, how are you? You're like, oh, I'm good, thanks. It's totally immediate. And that's a lot of, like, the fluency that needs to be there in Tekken. Where someone's like, hey, hop kick, and you're like, oh yeah, minus 13, like boom boom, like you already know, you don't like think about that. Whereas you have someone still learning, they're just like, what is that? But when I'm telling someone, record a sequence, really what we're getting at is like, you need to be able to say, how are you? Like, do you know what that phrase is?
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, you hear it, like some semblance of it, and like a response.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to be fluent in a language, like you would want to know how to say what you're responding to, and that's what you're trying to do when you're learning how to input these sequences and record them. There's like so many connections to this idea of like fluency and context, and knowing situations, having like automatic responses that you don't have to think about super hard.
I think I'm bleeding inside my chest.
There's something to be said for sure. Cody, thank you for the raid, bro. What's going on? Welcome, everybody. We're just interviewing Uncle Joey, talking about how Tekken is basically a language. There's something to be said, too, about, like, the speed and, like, those microseconds where you either think or you don't have to think.
Yep.
That gives you either advantages or disadvantages.
Assembly of
And like what you would pay for an awkward silence in a conversation for a language, you pay with your life bar in Tekken. So,
but it can definitely go the other way around, right? Where if you speak before thinking, you could, like, did you just think about what you just said?
Hell yeah.
It could be social suicide. It could be the death of you in Tekken. So,
and it's
so many comparisons like that. Yeah.
It's funny too, because I draw this comparison directly, like very strongly to dance, because when I'm dancing people or when I'm teaching people dance, a lot of the times when I work with people who are coming out of genre, like I'm teaching a ballet dancer how to hip hop dance, or a hip hop dancer how to social dance. There's the like, there are the moves, right? There are the words, and like there's a sentence structure when you combine the moves into like one kind of sentence thing going in a certain direction, and yet there are people who feel like stiff, like ballet dancers will look more like a jazz dancer rather than a hip hop dancer where they're doing hip hop, and like there is an accent to it, like how native speakers have accents.
It's like an accent to the way people move.
Yeah, and like and in ballet, like their accent. I don't know if you guys, my people who are watching, but like they have this sort of like T thing when they stand in what's called port de bras. Like their chest is out. It's like a long, strong T, like capital T, where like the shoulders are rolled back and stuff like that. But in hip hop, when we're moving around, like there's no answer to our torso.
Does it like come forward?
Like it comes forward, but it also like it hits all of these different spaces and stuff. Like there's no one moment where we're like here the entire time, because then we're stiffing it, right?
You're not like a rigid cross. Like it's more like fluid across the chest. Yeah.
And like so, while I can teach them how to like do arm waves and stuff like that, or body rolls or whatever, like until you start getting the accent of like how to sit in this, like you will not feel like a hip hop dancer. And I think the same thing applies to Tekken as well, where like specifically when it comes to character specialists who don't work on defense, like they speak their character, but like do they speak Tekken?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of like biting into that we can do. Mac, welcome. Cody, I never worry about other people judging my speech, hence hell sweep. What's going on? Let's see. Yeah, dude. And I think we can go really far with that language analogy. And it nicely segues, and again, if you want to double back, feel free, to your own interest in just actual languages. So I know there was like that brief moment where you were interested in learning German, and I think there was another language, if I recall correctly, that you were messing around with. But maybe I might be misremembering.
It's like over the course of my life, like I've been interested in languages. I never summoned up the level of commitment and work ethic necessary to like learn or like achieve fluency in another one. I mean, like I know like some words and like phrases about like other languages. I took Spanish in high school, but I'm not like anywhere near communicative in them. But regardless, just the concepts involved in learning them, and what goes into being like multilingual, all those things. It's interesting. I've looked into it, but it's so hard to become fluent, especially if you don't live in a place where the language is spoken all the time. Like it's crazy how devoted you have to be to self-study.
You need that feedback like constantly.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever used like Tekken as like a learning structure or a blueprint to learn other things?
I think so. I think like particularly with music, I don't know if it's necessarily like the blueprint, but just like the work ethic involved of like, okay, go into practice mode and learn the properties on every move in this move list. Like just be so thorough and comprehensive. And just like doing it with a weird character. Like, okay, pick Zafina, and like I should be able to look at every move on this move list and like know what it looks like.
Yeah. Or
at least most of them. Without actually having to do it. I see the input and I know what that move is.
Yeah.
Just that level of thing, I'd like apply to music, like a piece of music I'm learning. Like, do I really understand every marking that the composer put there? I understand every like measure and where it's leading to, where the phrase starts, where it ends. The idea of being very, very comprehensive, I think, has applied to a lot of things.
And speaking of music, that's not something that, at least that I've seen you kind of communicate much to the fighting game world. Is there anything like is music just more of like a private thing for you rather than part of your online persona? Or is it just something like it's not something very intentional? It's there.
I think generally for the past few years of my life, it's been sort of more of a private thing, I guess. Not Not that I think that's like the way music should be. It's just I guess that's where I've been at. I mean, music isn't like.
I'll be outside.
There was a time in my life where I thought it was going to be my career, or I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But that's not where I'm at anymore, or not right now. So yeah, it is just a bit more of like, I don't know if hobby is the right word. It's not like a hobby to me. It's really important.
Yeah.
Well, hobbies can be very important to you, of course, but yeah, I guess it's just more of like a personal pastime, or I don't know. I don't like the word hobby for it, but I suppose it could be appropriate.
That Kevin and Joseph Bennett. Let's see. So, for the music thing, one thing I've been interested in is classical music. So, you're a fan of classical music, as far as I could tell.
Yep.
You got 2 emotes dedicated to the damn thing.
I do. They're not the most popular ones, but I like them. So.
Yeah, no, I think they're pretty dope. I'm actually sad that what's it called? That's Right, I Did It has fallen out of style, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, people still use the hands a lot.
I know, but it's not as much. And Too Obvious is a great one too. But so when it comes to classical music though, like, so classical music has stuck around for so long. It has staying power for a reason. For you, as someone who enjoys it, and like I've listened to classical music and I can enjoy classical music. It's not something I reach for generally. But for people who either dislike classical music or like just kind of don't care about it, is there something there that like could help someone appreciate classical music? Like, is there something that people who don't like it, not in a very aggressive way, just like bland, like, yeah, it's whatever, is there something that we're missing?
Well, I think that is never going to be like entirely combated. Like, nothing is ever going to be universally liked. Of course, people have different sensibilities. I think I'll link this video for you if you want to watch it later, or someone else does. This is like such an awesome video. Just,
I'm down. Hit it up.
Gets me like just emotional. This is Leonard Bernstein, one of the premier American composers and conductors of the 20th century.
I've actually watched I think 4 to 6 hours worth of his lectures on music. Not because like I write or play music like that, but like I like to draw on like random analogies from shit that seemingly doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
but it makes sense to me. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was a genius. Composed West Side Story. But it's just this like little 3-4 minute video of him talking about Beethoven's music.
Yeah.
And Bernstein was he's a biographer of Beethoven. He wrote this dense, really detailed biography of Beethoven's life. Conducted many Beethoven symphonies. He's studied this guy's music for decades.
Yeah.
And he just does this like 3-4 minute little speech of like, this is what Beethoven's music means to me, but as I've lived with it for so long, like, this is what I've discovered it means to like the world, like to humanity, to people over many centuries since he lived. And it's just really beautiful words. And I think like even if somebody's not super into classical music, just like watching this, hearing these words from this person who's like really lived with the music and seen how it's affected people over a vast period of time, and like the symphonies in the background, it's just like, it's so beautiful, it's so emotional. I think like if I wanted to have someone like really appreciate or respect classical music, like this is the first video that comes to mind. Like just listen to like what Bernstein says about it. Like I couldn't express it any better than that. So something that's, I guess, you need to feel and experience. You can't just be like, yo, you should like classical music,
Yeah.
Like if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think seeing it in like a historical way but not like an academic historical way, just looking like how many people have really been compelled and moved by this music over so long. I mean, you can't really say that about much music. A lot of music comes and goes. You know, like, oh, it's a bop for like, you know, a few weeks, a few months. Like, oh yeah, I remember that song back from 2008. That was a great one. Haven't listened to it in fucking 12 years, and I don't want to listen to it now. But like, yeah, it was good. Like, I'll dance to it if it comes on the dance floor. You know, that music's valuable too. You know, it's a huge part of the human experience. But I think there is something special about someone who writes a piece of music and it affects people for hundreds of years. Like, that's pretty cool.
Centuries.
Yeah.
Motherfucking centuries. Let's see. So, this next thing kind of like ties a lot of stuff together at once, but so we'll start shallow first. So if you had to pick a dance genre to learn, what would you pick, and why?
So I'm not like super well versed to even know like what a lot of them are. You know, I just like I see lots of you know, like the videos you post. I think it's like a lot of hybridization, right? There's lots of like taking influences from like lots of different genres, right? You do like salsa, bachata, but there's also like hip hop. So yeah, it's hard for me to say. I would probably be most interested in like that type of thing. Like it's like a hybridization, taking from a lot of different styles. Like, can you just teach me to be fluid in a lot of different ways? Not like hyper specialized, I guess.
Yeah, teach you how to move rather than how to do.
Yeah, how to move rather than how to dance in a specific style.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because literally just the other night I was out social dancing. Not yesterday. Yesterday I was in Cincy. It was on Thursday. I was out at a local bar named Coconuts, and a guy who's been dancing the scene for a while, his name's Ron, came up to me and was like, "Hey man, like, how'd you get so good?" I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, you know, like he's like, you know, was it like talent or like this or that? And I've only been doing social dancing like salsa and bachata for 3 or 4 years, and while like on the other hand I've been doing hip hop and like contemporary and like some other styles for like close to 10, but within a year and a half of me learning salsa and bachata, I was already instructing and teaching the genre, for no other reason aside from like people wanted to learn from me, and I've been teaching for a while at that point. So while not necessarily an expert in the field, like I was good enough to teach some people. And one thing that I've always appreciated the most about my style and the upbringing that I've had from like my studio training, it was like a national competition dance studio, and like, you know, there's this whole story about how I got into dance, but we can say that for another time. Learning a multitude of styles all at once within a week, and like traveling to different cities and learning from different people who have their own different styles and like random different genres, and being on the spot, like, learn this now. Like, I know you haven't done it before, but do it now. And like it trains, like there is that specific training of like teaching you to move and like learn from what's in front of you rather than always working through like a specific lexicon of like movements.
Right. You can just adapt like so much faster. Like you said, yeah, apply the principles that you've learned like about how to move and just like adapt yourself to what you see. Yeah, that's like just super appealing idea. I mean, it definitely applies to music. You know, someone can be extremely well versed in their instrument, but like how flexible are they in moving to another style of music? And if you have this like general musicality, to just be able to hear things and then reproduce and modify them, like that's really valuable. Like comprehensive musicality rather than like, well, I can play classical, but like ask me to produce like a tone that's more fitting to jazz, like impossible. Like I can't do it, you know, because I'm so grounded in one style. Not that like that's necessarily bad. I mean, specialization is very valuable in lots of areas of life,
Yeah.
but it all depends on your perspective. And I like the idea of just like ultimate flexibility.
Yeah, being a little bit more free. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say. So, and also, if at any point we're talking about anything and you want to ask me some shit, like, you don't have to sit in the hot seat the entire time.
Yeah.
So, the other night while I was out in Cincinnati social dancing, at the end of social dances, for anyone who doesn't know, a social dance is just you go and it's like a Latin social dance scene. So they play salsa music, bachata music, merengue sometimes, and like another thing called kizomba. I'll spare you the details for now, but you basically dance with people while like through the modem of like speaking of this mutual language, which is one of these dance styles.
Yep.
Don't know you, we might not even speak English, but if you know this language, we can talk. And at the end, they just started to play, like they'll play random music, just because it's a party at that point, and everyone's fucking around and either like drunk or going home. So they were playing like hip hop music, like Biggie and like More Money, More Problems and all that, and I'm like, holy shit. So I'm like vibing to this as someone who's like, hip hop is like my main genre. And they had like started an old school hip hop like social line where everyone is facing the mirrors and we're just doing like grooves basically. Like the Running Man or the Cabbage Patch Kid or the Reebok or the Jerk, like all that kind of shit, or the Charleston. And it was a really like fun, like social cultural thing that I got to experience that wasn't so lined with professionalism, right? Like I'm not there to be paid, I'm not there to get something done, I'm not like there to be the best, like I'm just vibing with everybody. And I look good doing it because I am professional, but but it was really, really fun. And my question to you to bring this around is like, for you, is there anything equivalent or anything that you'd like to see more of in that tone for the fighting game community? Because we have tournaments and we have just casual games and stuff like that. Is there anything similar or anything like that?
It's interesting you mentioned that because in some sense I've felt how do I best put it, that type of experience has really been lacking for me in Tekken.
Yeah.
Where almost for my own doing in a lot of instances, I think for quite a long time, what I'm always like pushing for is like, okay, we're gonna sit down and play. This better be like goal oriented. We better like have a set marker, like it's gonna be first to 5, it's gonna be first to 10. Like I don't want to play just to play, because that's not what tournaments are. Tournaments are goal oriented. Every action has a consequence, and like when I play, I want to try to simulate that as much as possible as I'm training. Like I want to experience consequence when I make a mistake. And so just the idea of like sitting down and just playing Tekken 100% for fun, not a care in the world, not thinking about an upcoming tournament or a competition. I haven't really done that, I think, in quite a long time.
Yeah.
And it's weird to me that I've reached a point where it's like that would be great, but like no, I can't do that. It's a little bit sad actually, but maybe I just have to figure that out in my own way. Like of course, like not having offline around definitely hurts that quite a lot. Yeah, like even when I go to my local meetups and I'm quite a ways along, like in Tekken, like much further than the other people who are there a lot of the time. So it's not like a serious concern that I'm going to lose like playing in the tournament, but there's still kind of this like, well, you need to exert a lot of energy here and win, because like no slacking ever.
Yeah, no, like practice good habits. Like don't.
Right, exactly. So, um, I would like, I think, more of that, like, experience at some point where you can just really play for fun and the enjoyment, the social interaction of it, and not be like so concerned about competition. Um, I have had those experiences with music, and they're wonderful, where you don't feel like you're being judged, and there's no like, okay, this is a recital and it's got to be good,
Yeah.
or this is like a professional performance, you're getting paid for this. Like, just meeting up with people, jamming as they say.
Yeah.
That's a great experience, and you can like never really have too much of that with music.
Yeah. So, I think like, and that's something that I find interesting is like the almost like, and dance is not exempt from this at all. Actually, one of the main reasons why I have like fallen in love with social dancing is because of how different it is from like the studio or like stage life.
Yeah, it gets to that experience, like away from
Yeah, and like there's something
making it a job.
There's something sterilizing about like professionalism, I find.
Yes.
Like I'm here and only the top are allowed, or like I'm here and like only serious people are like smiled at here. Like, you know what I mean? And
Very exclusive.
yeah, and when it comes to social dancing, at the very least, like, you know, if I'm teaching hip hop, if I'm teaching contemporary, or like I'm choreographing for something, like there are mirrors there. We're judging lines the entire time. We're making corrections. Like there's a way. There's like professionalism involved. Like we're staring at each other and trying to be cohesive. And then I just go social dancing, and I'm like, hey, like, it's nice to meet you, but I don't want to talk anymore. Can we go dance? And like the lights are off, and like no one, like we're just fucking around and messing up, and it's really fun. And while like there are like those silly ass moments that we have on stream, or like when we're playing tag and like when something fucking bonkers happens, and we're like, yo, clip that shit. And I'm thinking like specifically for Tekken compared to like a more quote unquote party game like Smash. Like a weakness or would be how, I don't want to say like not inclusive it is, but it seems to lack a cultural aspect, even though like we have tournaments, like offline tournaments, because things like casuals and things like that, like it still has this air of like I need to fucking win, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I've thought for a while, like I wonder if there's a way to maybe include like a different way of appreciating the game.
So yeah, it's an interesting observation. I mean, the game, I suppose, by its nature is competitive, whereas when it comes to like dance and music, competition is something that like can kind of end up getting imposed on the art form, whereas Tekken, like, at the base of its structure, I mean, it's you're trying to beat the other person. I mean, you just can't escape it. You cannot get away from this. You can't get away from this objective. I mean, you can decide not to care about it, but at the end of the game, it's gonna say one person wins and one person loses. So with music and dance, I feel like it is still hard to get away from, like particularly like if you're a professional.
Yeah.
You need to have those meaningful experiences where you step back and you're like, well, why is dance important to people in the first place? Like, why is it even a thing that we do it professionally? And then, you realize like, wow, it has all this history in people connecting and communicating and making each other feel good. And so like, that's where it comes from. And yeah, there may very well be some of that missing with Tekken. Like, why do we do this? Like, why do people compete against each other in fighting games? I think it would be cool if Tekken, like the developers, did more to satisfy this type of thing, where it's not always just like this cutthroat competition, like kill the other person.
Yeah.
Like I said, that is fundamentally like what the game is. But even like, I feel like they've backtracked in a lot of ways. Like in Tekken 6, we had the scenario campaign.
Yeah.
I remember like 2 years ago or so, I jumped on there. I was playing that shit online with Reno. Like we were playing scenario campaign online.
Nightmare
Shit was,
Train.
it was mad fun. It was like super fun. And just like those alternate game modes where people can like still be experiencing the game and the culture of it, but it doesn't have to be this like, beat the other person and stay sharp.
Yeah.
Don't even like mess around too much because it's going to be detrimental to you.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I feel like the developers have really overlooked that type of thing. Like, they cut scenario campaign out. It's not there anymore. They put in these other modes like Tekken Bowl. No online, no co-op.
Yeah, I can't
like,
believe
fuck
it.
you.
Oh my god.
So it's like we have to find that for ourselves in other ways, and it's kind of unfortunate.
And like I love hearing like the tournament stories or like the stories that happen when you guys go to these local tournaments or offline events. Of fucking, I actually just saw like a tweet just today. I think it was like JC talking to Commanda. It's like it was like his birthday or something. It's like, hey, like don't like happy birthday. Make sure you don't eat everybody else's food. Like I don't know what the story is behind that, but it sounds fucking hilarious. Like like shit like that, or like your interaction with Spirogen and how you guys met. There are like these cultural things that are just more motivations to stay in contact and to engage with the game. And while there are like very spontaneous things, like you go to a tournament, you hang out with your group, and like some fucking random shit happens, like JDCR, I don't know, does a push up at the Red Bull Mansion House. Like I don't know.
Whatever. Yeah.
Like shit like that. Like that shit's funny, and like it's really like charming to hear about. Like like the legends of yore. Okay.
Yep. I can't remember what I was gonna. I had some thought that it escapes me. It'll come back to me.
About the cultural stuff or offline events, social interactions with Tekken.
I'm blanking out. But I think like circling back to what we were saying about like if there were alternatives like within the game to explore, like just like alternate game modes, things that don't have to be one person versus the other. But I think what I was going to say, what you're getting at, is like why it's so hard for anyone to like leave Tekken. It's like once you're in, like you're in. These people have been playing for like decades, because you get tied up in this whole like social fabric and your friends and all of like the memories. And so even like when you don't play that much anymore, like these guys who haven't played in like 10 years, they'll just like randomly surface like at a tournament. You're like, what the, like you still play? Like what the fuck? Like I'll see that type of thing all the time. Like, oh, I've been playing the past few months, decided to get back into it. It's funny, man. Those people just cannot get away.
And honestly, I think
in the best way.
I've mentioned this before, actually, and maybe directly to you. But like it's just like the reason why I've stuck around is because like the social interactions that I've had with Tekken, like chatting with you or Anakin or Speed Kicks or like the people in the Yoshi Discord, people like Bristlebutt over here in the chat. Just like it's just fun, and like there's like silly shit that happens that I like bringing up, and like all these inside jokes. And I just think that there could be more, like there's a lot to be explored in that direction, if we were to do so intentionally with Tekken, like whether it's something brought on by the company itself or like just like the culture, shit could be, I think, just a lot more interesting. Like one button tournaments, like that shit's dope.
Yep. Just the thing with Spiro is he would always talk to me like, man, I think it's so sad how like once the new Tekken comes out, like the old games just fall off. Like a
Yeah.
retro tournament is so few and far between. Like when are you ever gonna see that besides like strong style? You know, he's like, I wish the community could keep these types of things alive. But you know, understandably, it's hard. I think, yeah, the community could do more. I really think that like the devs could do so much more.
So much more.
Kind of this topic that we're talking about, like, where is online Tekken Ball? Where is online Tekken Bowling? Like, where is online Team Battle? Like, why can't I like link up with like, why can't we get me, B-Sun, and Nashi to like enter Team Battle mode against like freaking whoever, like Cody and Mika? Like, why can't we do that? You know, there's so many ideas, and this is what it comes back to when you have guys like Arya, that blasted salami. You know, he's tweeting like, a lot of these games are just like in the Stone Age. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Like, you just like make a game and it's like story battle, verse battle, training mode. Have fun.
Like as fuck.
no.
Yeah.
Like and ranked. There's so much room for creativity with these games because there is this whole culture that's been made around the game. People love the characters, the variety of animations and fight styles, and like you can do creative things with it. Of course, we want the game to be good, like the fighting game itself, ranked mode. We want to have tournaments, but there's so much more there that could possibly be done. And I don't know. Maybe they should be hiring people like me and you because like we know the community.
Yeah.
And we've got ideas for like how this could be done. We know what people would like, but it's very kind of in the Stone Age in a lot of ways for like how these games are made. Just keep churning them out the same way.
I think, yeah, Bristol, you're right, man. I think one thing that's been interesting to see is what Anakin's been doing with Red Bull. Like, I don't know, like if it's like sponsorship money or whatever the fuck, but like these events that he's creating, like the like what amounts to essentially like a reality TV show, but for fighting games, like Red Bull Mansion, like, or like Pimp My Arcade Stick. Come on, that shit was Pimp My Arcade Stick. Like, yo, I heard you like smoke, so I put a fucking fog machine when you're like mashing the butt. Like, come on, dude. That's exhibit right there, man. But it's interesting. Like,
I put a smoke machine in your stick so you can smoke while you get smoked.
fucking dude put like 4 supporting pillars of like Buddha because of like the Vietnamese. Like I was like, oh, that shit's tight. Like on the 4 corners. But yeah, like there are definitely. I'm interested to see what Anakin and maybe even potentially Cuddlecore could do as well. Now that she's also sponsored by Red Bull, I don't know if she would get like the same treatment. I mean, one would hope so. But like to kind of make more waves, like just on the player side, because sort of on our own at that point.
Yeah, I mean that Red Bull Tekken Mansion was sick. Sort of felt like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, wow, like
Dude,
all these professionals are here.
we're
playing Tekken.
I was actually this close to being. I don't know if you know about this, but I was actually this close to being on the Mansion project. And Anakin had been like telling me about it, and I think someone else couldn't make it, and I was like next in line or something.
The sub.
Yeah, and then I think at the last minute JDCR could make it, and then which is like dude, yeah, pick JDCR. Like, I'm definitely not gonna
my boy though. What the fuck?
But he's like, I think that's also that may be part of the reason why I'm in like this invitational as well. He's like, yeah, I gotta. He said on one of these streams, like, yeah, I still owe you a few for that Tekken Mansion shit, B-Sun.
Yeah, man.
But it looked like a blast, man. Like everything that they had mentioned, like off the bits and pieces that I've seen of that video, are all things that strike really true from the research that I've done in like just performance science and like learning science. Like the food is important, the routines are important, the prep, the like also like specifically how they have you guys training together rather than separately is a huge thing. There's a big reason why like social accountability is like this fucking psychological thing, but I think there's a lot like at the core there that is really important, aside from like how funny it is to see Shadow do like some back rows.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's just eye-opening. Like, you feel that boost, that effectiveness right away. Like, okay, I'm on a routine. I'm hanging around with people who are really good and they're doing the same thing. So there's like that group drive forward. Everyone's like, yeah, the self or social accountability that's happening. Like the immersion of being around really good people. Like, you just get this boost so fast.
Yeah.
It made me realize, like, these countries like South Korea, where everyone's like, well, they're so good because there's like these good players in this concentrated area. But it's like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
it.
what's happening. Like, they're just feeding off of each other, getting so freaking good.
Yeah.
So if we want to like go to the next level, I mean, you need to try to create those conditions, and it's really hard. What are you gonna do? Like, all just move into a mansion together? But it's cool to get the experience of what that feels like.
Yeah, for sure. On that note, it is now my turn for a bathroom break. I've been sipping water like fucking crazy.
All right, I'm gonna grab some more water.
Yeah.
Actually.
So hold on, chat. We'll be right back. It'll be like 30 seconds.
Yep.
All right, here we go. BRB. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. Cody, thank you again for the raid. If you're even still there. Also, Bristle and Cody, thank you both for following as well. I have way too much fucking hair, dog. Ooh. Let me get caught up in chat while I'm at it. I'm still trying to find the line between like talking shit and interviewing Joey and juggling the questions while trying to look at you guys and pay attention. The best thing I've found is just like chatting back. But hold up. So, when you starting the Tekken match, I need Red Bull money for that kind of shit, and I ain't got Red Bull money. B-Sun's mention would be a banger. I think so. There would definitely be a dance section in my Red Bull mansion, for sure. Cody said something interesting earlier. I think regarding Latin music. Where'd it go? When is Joey Fury acapella EP? Let's see. Oh, Bristol, I didn't know you used to breakdance, man. That's dope. Dope. I stopped between tight and dope. I said dope.
Oh.
That shit dope. Hybrid is good. I found salsa slash Latin mix allow for a lot of improv to other music while still fitting well enough. Huh. Interesting. I would love to see an example of that. I love salsa music. Joey, have you ever gotten a chance to listen to like salsa music before?
I had like a sweet mate in college who was always playing like bachata music. But salsa, no, I don't like really know too much about it.
I would definitely I would recommend listening to it, like just to get a taste, especially from someone who's interested in music. Yeah, and feel free to like go crazy, bro. Like
Sorry,
we're just we'll goof around. Professionalism is not what I'm aiming for. But
Good.
we chilling. But salsa music, there's something really really interesting about salsa music in terms of like the way it's structured and like the accompaniment. And there are like native like rhythms like the tumbao and the clave and like whether it's like a clave on one or clave on two, there's like a lot of shit that goes in, and like also like cultural sounds as well. But like the way it's constructed, it's like fun to figure out, because as someone who's coming from like I don't know, like American music taste, like parts where like in a salsa song or like in an American song where like it would change or there'd be like something of a predictable like happening. It's just so different in salsa, and like experiencing that like as someone who is interested and like actively listens to music, it's like really like it's weird but in a fun way. And like their breaks and the way that they balance like just all the instruments that they have in a band is just so fun.
It's really quite interesting how exploring music of other cultures, it makes you realize, I think sometimes that we have false impressions about how music works. We get this feeling of like, oh, you know, this part of the beat, emphasizing that, there's something like inherently natural about that, and like that's the way like it should be.
Yeah.
And then, like you listen to this other type of music, and it's like completely turning that on its head, and you're like, wow, so have I just been conditioned so much of my life to believe that like, yeah, this is like natural, this is the way like it should feel, it's the way it's good, like the music should sound. Like I've been conditioned to feel this. It's not like an inherent thing by any means. So I'm sure there's like tons of videos that talk about this, like just the emphasis of the beat in like Western music is like boom, like always on, you know, like 2 and 4, and then like reggae music, you know, it's like on 3.
Yeah.
And then like I think there's something, I'm not sure if it was like in Thai music or something, but like it's like heavy emphasis on only beat 4.
Really?
Huh. You can just go like all over the world and just different sensibilities and structures, and just makes you examine like your own impressions about how music works or how it should be. There's a lot more freedom than probably we could ever realize.
Yeah, I gotta send you some salsa music, man. At the end of this, remind me too, because I think you'd have some fun just kind of like giving it a taste. What's going on, James? So did we already talk about that 10K? Nah, man. Not yet. This man, his mind's in the right place. You haven't told many people about that, Bristol? I mean, it's a dope thing, bro. Like, dancing is amazing. And I do highly encourage you to try social dancing. This goes out to everyone. I've said this before, and Joe, I don't know if I've told you this before as well, but like, if you're interested in trying like dance just like for fun, I really I highly suggest social dancing, whether it's bachata or salsa. Although most people find bachata easier because it's a very low barrier of entry, and there's structure, like understandable structure. Like there's a basic step, there are variations of the basic steps, and everything is built on top of the basic step. And they can like tell you like, here are like the base things that we do, and everything else is a spin on the base.
Embellishment.
Yeah. And that way it's actually a lot. It's really it's fitting to your taste or like the thing that you mentioned that draws you to various video games, which is like
Yeah,
simple mechanics, but you know, lots of depth. And it's just a lot of fun, and like the focus on enjoyment and the communication over performance can be a nice change of pace for a lot of people. Although, you know, depending on who you are, there's no avoiding that. Yeah, James, I don't, dude. I mean, I would say I'm nervous, but like it comes and it goes. We'll see tomorrow. I mean, I want to win, but this is Tekken 7 in the first of 3, like single limb, bro. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
Wait, is it first of 3 or best of 3?
Ooh, I think it's
best of 3.
It's best of 3 at first, and I think it evolves into like first of 3.
And single limb, right?
Yeah, it's single limb. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, the last tournament I played for Anakin, I think it was the King of the Hill thing. That shit was like, I mean, I won. I'm not saying I didn't put the work, but I also got hella fucking lucky. my first round opponent, I don't know if you remember, was supposed to be Bin Chang. But he didn't show up. He didn't show up. So I got the first round bye, and like, I can't remember specifically, but like everyone else that I had faced was like just happened to be around my level, and like with matchups that I happened to be comfortable with. I think I beat Fusion. I think the Loki Chloe player.
Yep.
And he tried to hit me with the fucking Cali roll. Like I was like, I said right options to like launch you, get fucked. And it worked out, and I got paid a lot of money for it. That was nice. Let's see, James. Joey plays guitar. I know that much. And V-Sun teaches salsa, correct? I teach a lot of things. Salsa, bachata, hip hop, contemporary dancing. Like, you know, I partake in like videos and shit like that. Whatever. And Joey sings and he plays guitar. Let me know. Let's see. All right, before I hit you again with some cues, is there anything you want to ask me, or no pressure? You're just fucking jamming.
Oh, so what is your dance origin story? I mean, that's the first question you asked me.
That shit. Okay, so the dance origin story was actually quite lucky. I liked America's Best Dance Crew a lot. Like season 1, Jabberwockies, like Kappa Modern, all that kind of shit. Like, and like, at the time I was like in high school, and I've always like since a long time I've liked Michael Jackson and like performances and shit like that, and watching him do Billie Jean or like live stuff. He's like moonwalking and shit. You know, who doesn't know the moonwalk? Quest Crew, but there was a time like freshman year in high school, homecoming was coming up, right? And I wanted to like learn a thing or two, because like I don't know what the fuck, like dude, I'm just a random kid in Ohio, like, I don't know how to dance. So I like did something that actually ended up being like a long-standing like habit, which is like YouTubing tutorials. So I YouTube like how to moonwalk and like how to glide, and I learned how to do that, and that was like my first taste. And America's Best Dance Crew came up, and like everyone was watching it and we were talking about it, and like I had a younger cousin named Ethan. It was actually his birthday yesterday, and at the time I was like a sophomore in high school, and we were talking about America's Best Dance Crew, and he's younger than me, like middle school at the time. And I was like, yo, like dance is really, really sick. And he told me that he used to, he's like, I used to take hip hop classes. I was like, oh, why'd you stop? Little did I know that he actually looked up to me without me knowing about it. And like he like the next week he calls me and he goes, hey, I'm on my way to a hip hop class. Like, do you want to come with? And I was like, hell yeah. So, there's me, like sophomore in high school, my middle school cousin Ethan, and like a bunch of like little boys, like 5-6-year-old, like this shit was Verizon Wireless, raising the bar, old school shit, dude. I was loving it. So I was just taking like recreational classes with these little kids. The hip hop teacher Eddie at the time, he's like, hey man, I think you can handle like the high school like older kids class. Like it's gonna be harder, but like I think you can hang. I was like, yeah. So like I tried it, loved it, stuck with it, and at the end of the year, we have recitals, and dance is actually quite expensive to partake in, at least the current format that it's in. And my dad didn't want to pay for that shit. You know, fresh off the boat, dad, like Asian father. You know how the money thing goes. So anyway, like he like at the end of the year, like before the recital, he tells me that like I need to quit or whatever. So, and at the time I didn't realize like how important it was to me, because like I was going to drive to the studio and I just ended up like bawling in my car, and I was like, why the fuck am I crying, dude? Like, what's going on? So I went over there and like I told the class that like, yeah, I had to quit, so I can't be in the recital. And the tap teacher, who was subbing for the hip hop teacher at the time, like was like, hold on. She leaves, comes back, and she tells me like, hey, you're not quitting. Don't ask. You're not quitting. Talk to Jamie like before you leave. I was like, all right.
No way.
So Jamie was my dance director. She pulls me into the back office. She's like, hey, like I heard what's going on, like, and I'll tell you what, you can't tell anybody else about this, but we're going to waive your fees for the year. And I was like, Jamie, I can't accept that. Like, she's like, nope, we want you here. We want you to keep dancing. I'm not gonna hear another word about it.
That's crazy, dude.
So
that is so awesome.
Like literally at that moment, like I could have just not danced at all. So we go through the recital. I know a lot of girls who at my high school went to that studio and were on the competition dance team. They're like, oh, you should try out. So I tried out for the dance team. They had 2 dance teams, regional, national. I made the national team, not because I was good, but because I was a boy. Fucking moving prop. All right, you go there, lift her, put her back down. Go this way, you lift her, pick her up, put her back down. Move prop, like all that kind of shit. But I eventually got better as like the time went by, and there was there's obviously like there's dance drama as things go with like a group of teenagers like forced to spend time together.
Yep, makes sense.
Like I kept dancing, and there were like a lot of like random moments that like kind of just kept pointing me in the right direction. One of them being like the stage director for Justin Timberlake. He was like teaching at this dance convention, and like he stopped the whole class, like this dance convention that had like 250 people in the room, to like talk to me. Like throughout the class, he would like give me pointed corrections, like, hey, like try this, and go back to teaching the class. Hey, try this. And eventually he just stopped the whole class and like told me about some shit and like pulled me aside and made the student, the assistant teacher, I guess, like demonstrate the combo they were working on for contemporary.
Yep.
And like he pulled me to the stage, like just so it could be us two to watch him. He's like, yeah, I want you to watch this guy, because like he was in your position like a couple years ago where like he had a lot of promise, but he was kind of hard to watch, and I think you can like be this good. And it was fucking crazy. Like I walked out like out of the convention room like, what the hell just happened? And Jamie, my dance director, was like recording it and looked over and like so like there were lots of like random moments like that. There was like another time where someone had anonymously donated $1,000 to my dance fund. Like Jamie like pulled me in. She's like, hey, I gotta tell you something. Like someone did this own free will. They don't want me to tell you who it is, but they donated $1,000 to your dance fund and your tuition. So like I'm like, Jamie, I can't accept it. And she's like, nope, not gonna hear a word about it. And throughout all like the time, like my dad was busy working, so whenever we would travel out of town, like these other people would foster me basically and like let me stay with them or like bring me around or take care of me, all that kind of shit. So like there's just so many things that were just like falling into place, and shit just kept happening. I liked it enough to not go to college and just keep teaching dance. So
Sick. Yeah, lots of signs you're on the right track.
Yeah.
What country is your dad from?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Are both your parents from Vietnam?
No, just my dad. Just
your dad.
Yeah.
I see. When did he come to the States?
I don't remember when exactly. I believe he was a teenager at the time, and him and my grandparents moved just to run away from the Vietnam War. Just like shit was going down and they needed to get out. So
makes sense.
Yeah, they moved. They ended up in Philly, where my grandparents still are now, and they just kind of found a way to make a living. My dad has some fucking crazy stories. So like, you know, like
I'm sure, like fleeing a war-torn country,
Yeah.
and coming to a new one.
like stealing to survive, like that kind of shit.
Yay.
Maybe Bristle, maybe. Yeah. So in regards to the dance thing, like, shit just kind of kept working.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good origin story.
So, question for you, Coach Kelly. So, what kind of role or like what kind of things does Kelly do for you when you get to these points where you're like, hey, like, yeah, because you know you'll have these exits from your stream. You're like, all right, time to go. Da-da-da-da. Like, how does that end up working out for you?
Be like a very valuable voice of reason outside of the like intense emotional investment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like someone who has some level of like emotional investment. I mean, of course, wants me to do well and succeed, but it's just dialed down so much. Just think of her having the ability to just like zoom back and be
I
like,
see.
all right, it's one tournament, it's one drop to losers bracket, like
I see.
just chill it down. Like when you focus on the game, you do really well. When you focus on like the tournament, as you, like you start messing up, you know. So yeah, it's like standard pep talk. Like, yo, just calm down, dude. Just play the game. It's okay. You win from losers all the time, no big deal. Or like if you lose a tournament, you know, there's other ones. Just chill out, you know.
I mean, standard as it is, like, perspective is really valuable, and
Yep.
having someone that you trust enough to like hear those words, not like, you know, because a lot of people can say that shit to you, but like, will you take the same meaning from everybody? Hell no, right? Like,
Right.
that is dope though. I expected as much, but like hearing it from like straight from you is pretty cool. That's tight that you guys can do that. How'd you two meet?
At music school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a college for music performance, saxophone performance, and Kelly was there studying music education and oboe. She's also a really talented piano player. It's like not her main instrument, but like she can sight read music and play like super well. But she's a music teacher professionally. So we met there. I met her when I was a freshman, but we didn't end up dating until we were seniors. So, and that was like 2014. So
Yeah. And obviously, if there's anything you don't want to talk about, you just let me know. But was it just something where you guys floated around in similar social like circles and like things started falling into place and like an interest was formed?
thing is, like, we weren't frequenting the same social circle.
Okay.
It was kind of a small school, so like when you're both music students at a small school, like it has a little bit of that like high school effect where like, you know, you just walk through and like everyone you see, like you kind of know their name. So even if like you're not friends, like you know each other and you just be like, oh hey, what's up? But I think it was just more of like a timing and development thing. Like you're not really the same when you're 18 as you are when you're like 22, like kind of around the. So it's just like the way it worked out.
Damn. And how long have you two been together?
7 years.
Woo wee.
Yeah.
Man of commitment. That's tight. Inca says, "Yo, you play sax too? I played tenor for the longest time."
Sick. Yeah, I had mostly played alto at school, but I had to learn how to play all of them, just for various ensembles. So baritone, tenor, alto, soprano. I never got to play the bass sax there, but they did have one.
What do you think is like the sexiest like saxophone?
It's the tenor. The tenor's the tenor's the sexiest.
Tell them how it is. Tell them how it is.
But a lot of my studies were like in like contemporary music, new music, classical music, like on the saxophone. Like that was a lot of what my teacher was all about, like having the saxophone be a respectable and like legitimate instrument, like in the orchestral setting and ensemble playing, commissioning new music, you know, being able to like hold that place that like you know, orchestral instruments like the flute, the trumpet, the bassoon, the oboe like have in the classical world. You know, he was a type of player who pushed towards that for saxophone, which was really fascinating to me because as far as like popular perception of the saxophone goes, that philosophy is like kind of subversive to like have the saxophone be like a classical instrument.
Yeah.
And it was sick.
Yeah.
I loved it. So yeah, I played a lot of like chamber music, or like, you know, not like playing in like a jazz combo, but like going on stage and like playing a recital. And so it's really great experience. I played in the concerto competition when I was a junior, and then I won it, and I got to perform with the orchestra when I was a senior. Lots of really amazing experiences going to music school. And like I mentioned, I mean, I don't play that much nowadays. It's not my career, it's not my primary focus, but
Yeah.
very, very worthwhile. It developed me a lot as a person.
I like this. I like this a lot because these are like these things that, like, you know, fighting game players don't get to talk a lot about, especially, you know, because it's always about like how do you get better at Tekken, or like, do you have any advice for the green ranks, like what do I do about my tournament nerd? Like, this shit's important too.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I should send you the piece that I played, the concerto. You probably like it. It's super cool. Like,
hell yeah.
This French piece of music composed in the 1950s, and it's fucking dope.
I would love to hear it, bro. I'll remind you. I'll send it.
It's called Tableau de Provence, which just means like pictures of the province, or like pictures of this particular province in France.
Dope. All right. I mean, I have it written down, so, or typed down rather. Okay. So speaking about music again, and that's actually fascinating. I didn't know Kelly was a music student and, you know, professional like music teacher. Let's see. So I'm just getting some things from chat. Inca said he was classically trained and then branched out to jazz in my later years. Small world. Hell yeah. Band musicians from Tekken, they're too powerful. My sister was really good musically, and she has a lot of discipline and learning in other fields. I'd imagine they are connected. I think so. There's like music, music and you know, very much is like when we talk about like the language analogy before. I mean, you know, I don't like calling it an analogy because it feels like a direct comparison.
Yeah. Same.
Like there's that discipline that's like needed to like, how do you figure this out to the point where like your knowledge is at a fingertip feel.
Yep. Like
it's available to you in a physical form, which is something actually I'm curious. There's so many places I want to go. Of like. So like for me, when I listen to music, it is an extremely physical experience. Like, cause things that I hear, owe to like my practice of translating them into physical movements. Like when I hear sounds, like my body physically reacts to them.
Yes.
Like to the point where I was driving home from Cincinnati last night. Like it was fucking like 3 a.m. And I had like found like a random song, and it just hit me like I probably got like super close to like a legitimate high, like like just from enjoying the song, like feeling the highs, feeling the lows, feeling like the different balance of like, okay, this drum line like runs from the left to the right, like hearing like hints of like where the bridge is gonna go with like this little guitar riff that happened and then like was the main theme in the bridge later. Like when I hear that kind of shit, like it's just like punching me in like the heart, like in the best way possible. And you mentioned musicality before. Like when it comes to you and like your interpretation and experience of music, like what kind of shade or like flavor does that take on for you?
So the things that this is like raising up in my mind is like the difference between hearing and listening, which
Yeah.
some composers have talked about over the years, or people who kind of like philosophize about music. But there's a form of like taking in sound that is just very disengaged, passive, which is probably how the majority of music is consumed nowadays. And there is the very active method of really listening, sort of what you were talking about, where you're paying special attention to like all the differences. Like it's not one sound coming in, it's like parsed into many different sounds like that you can tune into. Like I can hear a guitar, I can hear the drums, I can hear the bass like below the guitar, and then can I hear like depth? Can I hear certain things coming out in front of the others? Are certain things louder?
Or, like,
certain things like
harmonies,
quiet, like like embedded deeper in the mix, or some things more like towards the front? And like performing all of these like assessments in rapid fire, like, oh, that's a different timbre, that must be a different instrument. Or like, is it swelling? Is it getting faster or louder? Like, there's so many things that you can try to actively pay attention to. And it's really engaging. It like kind of consumes your mind. So many of your mental resources get taken up trying to do this. And so this process of hearing, you can't turn that off. Like, you know, sounds coming in to like your eardrums, and your brain processes it on some level, but it's a totally different experience to really like listen to something with intent. So again, I think like there's a place for both. Sometimes music just needs to be consumed, and it's just kind of there in the background. That serves a purpose in life. But probably for a lot of us, more often than not, we could use some more like listening. You know, sit down and like really try to get involved in the experience of listening to music.
The one of my favorite things that I can do as a teacher, specifically as a dance teacher, is like I'll, you know, because I teach about my idea of musicality, right? Like, and the like base form that I talk about it is just like there's like level one, or like there's two sides of it. One is like hearing everything that's in the song, like not just like, you know, being like not just walking on the song, but like listening, and then there's like dancing to that timing, right? Like making movements that are on that timing and also are fitting to like what that sound could be like. And in the middle is like this glue where it's whoever's interpreting it, right? So like that'll affect like the style and like the genre and all that kind of stuff. And one of my favorite things, because like I'll have them sit there and like listen to like phrases of the song, and we'll count how many unique sounds that we hear, and like we'll compare our answers, and like we'll tell like oh, well, what did you hear, and like this is what I got, what did you get? And my like absolute favorite, like one of my favorite things is like when teachers come or students come back to me, like Mr. Brandon, like kind of like in an annoyed sense but also grateful. Like I cannot listen to music the same. Like I just keep hearing all these new things.
No.
Like hell yeah.
It's once you unlock this ability, it's crazy how you can like transform your perception about just about every song you've ever listened to. Like something that you've heard 100 times, like on the radio. Like if you learn this ability to hear like into the mix, separation of instruments, pitches, like the volumes, and just like be able to hear like, okay, how many instruments are playing at once? What is the breakdown of instrumentation? All this detail. You can go listen to a song that you've heard like 1,000 times and just like blow your own mind. Like,
so
holy
fun.
shit. I never noticed that was there.
Yeah.
Like that was just going into my ears, and like nothing in my brain was registering it. It was just like dead space.
Goddamn.
Holy shit! Like this sound is like underneath like this whole track. Like there's this instrument playing this line there. I never knew it was there. It's really cool. It's like a fun thing to do when you're bored and don't know what to do. Go listen to some music for real.
I mean, I'm luckily enough I get to do that for a profession, so that there is that up and up there. What's going on, Janver? They all know it and they all see it. Bracket update.
Janva.
Okay. So to chop things up to something a little bit more, so this is a question from Bronson.
Oh.
If you had to make a music playlist for Asian people, what would be the first 5 songs?
I don't know if I care for the question. Because what does someone being Asian tell me about their music sensibilities? It doesn't really tell me anything, does it?
That's true. Asian American, like what kind of Asian we did?
Tell them to fuck off.
Toxic ass Bronson.
I am number one thanks to that one.
Bristle, the question was, if Joey were to make a playlist for Asian people, what would be the first 5 songs on that playlist? And his answer is, fuck off.
God. No, but I mean, seriously, I mean, I don't fully understand the question. You know, I mean, should I just list like 5 songs that I think anyone like would benefit from hearing? I don't know.
I mean, I think he's just being stupid. No, we're just fucking around. But next question is this one's actually from Kuijibo.
Weed.
And I it can be, you know, if it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But do you feel any pressure to represent white people in a gaming genre where they're like typically underrepresented?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the question is genuine or kind of trolly. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it and it felt kind of genuine. I was like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Like, but.
Yeah, in terms of like my own self-perception, like competing, or even my perception of other competitors, it's just such a non-factor. I mean, it crosses my mind so little. Like, oh, like here's a competitor who's doing great, who's this race or this race. I mean, yeah, just largely irrelevant, and the way I like conduct myself and pursue my own goals, it is also like irrelevant. You know, like, don't feel any need, like I never feel like I'm representing people of my skin color, you know, like it's such a insanely wide and diverse group of people in itself. Like who are we talking about? Are we talking about people from Italy or France or Australia or Canada? Like what does this even like mean, this idea of like representing someone who's white? Like it's just nonsensical to me. So no, it does not cross my mind.
We just out here playing video games. I'm about it. Okay, what's like the most you could ever recall like talking shit while playing Tekken? It doesn't have to be like the most, but like, you know, relatively that you can.
I had a weird phase when I was a teenager where I like looking back on it, it's like I can't believe that was like me, but I would like actively be saying shit like while I was playing people in tournaments.
Oh damn!
And I would never ever do that nowadays. Like, of course, like it's just fucking rude. It's just weird, but you know, just like those growing pains or just the process of maturing. There was at some point I'd be at like some of these local tournaments, or maybe like my brother and I think traveled to one like in Ohio. And I have a couple memories. One, I think I was playing against like this Nina player from Syracuse, and I would I'd hit him like a tombstone, like a Jack tombstone. Like as soon as he like planted him on the ground, I was just like, oh, he was like yelling shit, and like I'd like land like the full charge back too, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like looking at him, do you see how much damage that did? Like, I'm like saying shit to this guy like while I'm playing him.
Damn.
And yeah, I was probably like 15 or something like that.
Bro,
fucking obnoxious, and like that's not the way I would like even conduct myself in real life like interactions outside of the game, because I always been like pretty shy and reserved. There was another one I remember specifically who I was playing. It's like this old school Tag 1 player, but this was in Tekken 6. Maybe you've heard of him. Maybe people in the chat have heard of him. His name's Antonio Carmona. Mateo definitely knows him. And I was playing him at this house tournament, and like I started like talking hella shit while I was playing. I like hit him with a law of Magic 4, and I was like, "Don't do that." I was like, "Stop that! Stop mashing." And I remember I lost the first game, and my brother, he just like came up to me. He's like, "More winning, less shit talking." And I was like, "Why am I doing this?" And then I think I won that set ultimately.
Oh shit.
And then he got a run back against me later, and he beat me and eliminated me from the tournament. And I mean, I just largely attribute it to being like a kid and just getting to know like myself and who I am and like proper ways to conduct yourself. You know, I mean, I think old enough to know better. I don't know why that was coming out, but it was just part of like the maturing process, I guess. So
you know, first off, funny. Thanks. Second off, I think
don't do that. Stop doing that. You're probably like, what the fuck is this kid doing?
I think there's something to be said about like exploring aspects of yourself that everybody has, right? So like obviously everybody's human and everybody has the full ranges of emotion, and like barring like certain like emotional maturity stunts, like most people should in a healthy sense be expressing things, whether it's like defensiveness, aggressiveness, like competitiveness, like sadness, like anything, right?
Yeah, I think it's like when you're a kid, I mean, it's just natural, like it should happen.
And I think like outlets are like an interesting factor of video games that aren't really talked about a lot. And like for me, I don't like competition in the dance world at all, because like it's fucking art, dude. Like just because this judge thinks it's better, like the other judge thinks it's worse in a different competition, doesn't mean it's better. Like I don't fucking know. So like that kind of stuff seemed arbitrary and like a little too cutthroat to me. But in Tekken, like being competitive is really fun. Talking shit is really fun. Obviously, like going back to like the relationship, like, and I think like there's something that's been interesting, which is like Tekken has been redefining like my relationship to things like anger or like want the best for me over somebody else. You know what I'm saying? You know, like obviously in the context of a video game, but like I think it's interesting to see that those kinds of things like poke out from people who are normally otherwise, like, you know, young, shy Joey Fury, who's like, that shit hurt, didn't it? Like,
yeah, like I am number one is saying like subjectiveness doesn't really exist in Tekken either, because you have the game acting as the judge. A lot of that is like the appeal for Tekken for me, actually. Like spent so much time with music, and there's all sorts of conversations to be had in music and really any art form of like, where does merit come from? What causes something to be of higher value? Something else? Are there any objective measures of that? And then you can go back and forth. And it's like, you know, someone could say it's entirely subjective. Someone could say, you know, there are like certain things that we can look to be objective measures of quality or achieving artistic goals. and it can all go back and forth. But like, great thing about Tekken for me is always like, none of that bullshit applies. Like, whatever the life bar says at the end, whatever the game says at the end, no matter like how much you had that round. If the game says you don't have that round, you don't fucking have that round.
Them's be the facts.
Like, there's no debate. The game decides all.
Hell yeah. And that's actually been a really fun thing too about like learning the game. Is like, I get like the feedback is much more immediate than like learning something like dance. Because I have to like work on something for like weeks at a time before I even like get an inkling of it. Sometimes. Let's see. So we've already been going for close to an hour and a half.
I don't know.
Or
We're
2 hours
way past that. Yeah, 2.5. Oh, about 2.5.
Yeah, holy shit. We've been trucking along. I'm like, dude, I barely even looked at my notes, bro. We've just been fucking rolling. So if you have to go anywhere or do anything, like, obviously feel free, bro.
We can definitely, if you want to go, like, we can go till like 6:30. You want to do like only 5 minutes, but we could definitely book a part 2.
Yeah, part 2 sounds good.
If you got a lot more, yeah.
Dude, I have barely scratched my notes. But let's see. Is there anything like in specific that you think that you would like to speak on, like off the top of your head, like this is something I don't get to talk much about, or like I'm looking forward to this, anything like that?
Well, we've I don't know, touched on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
I think there's the ones we're talking about. There's always so much more.
Yeah.
With like music and Tekken and even like talking about the connections with that with dance and I think there's a lot more we could talk about on these subjects, but I have to think it over.
Okay. Yeah.
If there's anything else that we want to hit on.
I got some shit prepared. So like when you're in regards to Tekken, how much time do you spend like watching Tekken versus like playing the game? Like, so like the theorizing part and like you're watching footage versus like like bouncing back straight immediately back to the lab.
I think I probably spend more time watching Tekken than playing. I mean, a lot of that comes down to like coaching. I end up having to watch footage or watch people play.
Yeah.
I mean, I do play against the people that I'm coaching as well, because that's really valuable to like experience their style firsthand. But I'm not sure if there is if this is just the balance that's working best for me right now, or if I should like shift the balance and like be playing a lot more than I watch. But honestly, like when you reach a certain level in Tekken, I feel like you just do derive a lot from watching, because your brain is just like absorbing all these situations that like you're watching, and then you can just sort of theorize in your head like how you would handle that if you ever saw it.
And of course, no one. That was actually one of the questions I got from no one. But one thing I would like to ask you, which is like, at least personally for me, when I watch a game or like when I'm watching people play Tekken, like it feels more disconnected than playing, like versus whomever. So and obviously like that makes sense. I'm not the one who's inputting like the actions, so like the feedback isn't as strong. But like for you, when you're watching stuff, like is there much of a workaround or anything that like helps like when you're watching Tekken to like continue to keep it practical rather than like you're just kind of looking at the screen in a very detached way?
You're saying when observing, like when watching someone else play?
Yeah. Like watching someone else play versus somebody else.
I think that, with that like music discussion of like hearing versus listening, that type of stuff applies as well. I mean, you can watch Tekken and just kind of be looking in like a general sense, like, okay, that life bar is going down, this guy's getting juggled, and just sort of tracking the end result of each round.
Yeah.
Or you can watch it like, all right, I'm gonna think of myself like as this Ling player right now, and I'm gonna try to like take in the information that like the opponent is giving me. Like, what would I be thinking about if I was the Ling right now? Like, oh, I just got tapped low. Oh, I got tapped low again. And just sort of, it's difficult because you're never going to be able to like get that sensation of like you're piloting the Ling. Like at any time you get a thought like, oh, I should do this, you know, the person piloting the Ling is going to defy it. You know, they're going to do something completely different like all the time.
True.
But you can still take that very active role when watching Tekken, and it's hard to force yourself to do that because all these things that we're talking about, like actively listening to music, watching Tekken, and like trying to take on, like, okay, I'm the person using Ling right now. What is the relevant information? What can I take in? That takes a lot of brain power.
Yeah, a lot of focus.
And you need energy and focus to do this. And a lot of our tendency, I think, as people, is to just go like, you know, you just watch Tekken like this, and you're like, okay, they got that one, they won that round.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of energy, but one of these things, like, you can derive as much out of it as you put into it.
Yeah, you gotta actively engage. That was it. Let's see. John Dingo. Who do you have like a best young up and coming player in NA?
I would say like Glaciating, but I don't really think he's going to be very active with competing, at least not anytime soon. Seems like he's you know, focused on other things in life, which is cool. I'd say probably Ty.
Yeah.
Ty's got a lot of potential. Yeah, he's got a good understanding of the game, and you know, he seems driven, like he wants to work at it.
He showed a lot of conviction lately, specifically.
And you know, he's reaching that point. Like sometimes he's just like in the zone, just catches fire, and he's just looking like pristine. Yeah. Probably just gonna be in that phase of like ironing out consistent days within consistent days. You know? But yeah, Ty comes to mind for sure. He's only 19. He's young. He's good, and he's only gonna get better. So.
All right, Ty. Last thing. Do you still have that Devil Jin statue?
Yep, I do.
What was that thing at?
At my mom's house.
Shit, not even at your house, it's your mom's.
It's in the basement, covered up, so it doesn't collect up.
That thing is huge, though.
I know, it's like kind of hard to transport.
Did you guys ever end up fixing that one feather that broke off it?
There's like 2 or 3 that broke off that need to be like glued on. It got like messed up in shipping. I don't know. I feel like I never should have taken it out of the box. Just sold it.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, just like sell that shit for an only today. All right, well, you know, I think that's a great place to leave it.
All right, yeah.
We have plenty of material for round 2. I didn't even get a chance to like really open it up to chat. Yo, Bristle, No One, Janber, John Dingo, Cody, like there are a lot of Lou. What's going on? A lot of people. Tommy, Inca. A lot of people dropped by. James showed some love and were talking shit with us and listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And honestly, and this is something I would actually like to suggest to chat, like people who are listening to this either like now or next time, which is like if you have the Twitch mobile app, like as bad as it is, you can listen, you can keep it going on in the background if you like have the app running and you lock it, or you can click the settings and put on audio only.
Yeah.
If you want to save some data as well. Like there are some streams I like listening to, just like going about my day. So. That might be a nice little format for people who are listening to this, because obviously we're just fucking talking shit. But thank you, Joey. I appreciate your time, your company, your intelligence, back and forth conversation.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, you should just cap the vid and post it on YouTube, and we can you know, other people can watch it later.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it a highlight on Twitch and everything, and we'll post all this shit.
Nice too.
Anything else you'd like to say before we sign out?
No, that's about it. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for making the time, bro.
We'll see everybody for the Anakin Invitational tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern on TK_Anakin's channel.
Come through. Root for your boy. Root for
yes,
your
sir.
boy. Although there are lots of homies in this thing. You can't just root for one of us.
TK Nashi. NYC Fab.
Fear.
That boy Fear.
Oh,
yeah, there's
shit.
lots.
I
Yo's
can't
is
believe
in there.
Fab came out for this.
Christian.
Dude, did you see Incog's picture?
Mm,
Bro, look this
Wait.
shit up right now. Look this shit up right now. Incog's picture for the invitational lineup. I don't know if he did that on purpose or if somebody fucking gooned him, but
wait, where did I see? Oh, it was on Instagram. I think I saw the picture. Hold on. It's on Anakin's story.
yeah.
I got it. 1 sec.
Chat, if you haven't seen it, look this shit up. Just look at Fab or Incog's face.
What the? What is he doing?
I don't know,
You mean
dude!
the one where he's howling,
Yeah,
like
he's
looking down?
And I think the shadow cast from his brows is like fucking just mean mugging somebody.
That's probably the picture he sent in, dude.
I know, but it's like, why would he do that?
You see Mac's picture?
Yeah, I mean,
He's wearing a mask.
that's according to Mac though. But maybe I just don't know JR well enough. Fab looks like he's 10 years older in this pic. Oh shit. All right, guys, that's gonna be us. All from us. I'll upload this in case anyone wants to watch it, or obviously the archive will be there for a little bit. I'll highlight it on Twitch. I'll upload it to YouTube. Joe, if you wanna upload it to your thing, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is as much you as it is me.
Cool.
And thank you again for your time. Thank you, chat, for stopping in. Thank you, everybody, for all the fucking generosity. Lots of gift subs and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go to the bathroom, eat some food, and then attend my local. So I'll catch you guys on the flip. Joey, thank you again. And
Peace, everybody.
enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Take care.
You too, bro. Peace.